Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 364 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ialon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our third book is called From Letters to Leaders, Leveraging Your Fraternity or Sorority Experience to Land Your Dream Job. So go and pick up that book today on Amazon. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, when I came into college as a freshman, I had absolutely no social skills whatsoever. Joining the fraternity helped me tremendously in that department, and it really started by addressing my entire chapter at our meetings, and the crowds at our meetings just kept growing over time. And that continues up until today with crowds of 4,000 people. So I really owe it to that college experience to get me out of my shell. It's not that I had these amazing social skills and the ability to communicate right out of the womb. That's just not the case. And I want to talk more about that aspect of social skills and social awkwardness today with our next guest. For years, Craig Gustafson felt like he missed class the day that they gave out the book of social grace. It seems like everybody had a rule book for successful social strategies, everyone but Craig. After decades of frustration, he discovered the hidden science of why people act the way they do in social situations. Craig is a body language trainer certified by the Science of People. More simply, he is a people skills coach on a mission to help everyone thrive in social situations because we all win when we have great interactions. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you and speak with you and your audience.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Anytime you want to talk about social skills and improving skills that are important to college students, I'm all about it. I think this is a very, very important topic. But I do want to go back to kind of the beginning for you because you were in the U.S. Navy for over 36 years. So first and foremost, let me say thank you for your service. That's really important for me to say. Now, what did you do in the Navy for 36 years?
Well, first of all, thank you. It was my honor to serve. And if I could have done it for all of my life, I probably would have. I loved what I did. But I was in the military for 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked in the defense industry for an additional 10 in project management and inventory management. So I was a submarine sailor for 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
I came naturally by it until I started 7th grade. That is what my father did. So I thought that's what everybody's dad did until my dad retired from the service. And the first time I went on a submarine, I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade. And my dad was a senior enlisted guy aboard. So, of course, everybody treated me much more kindly on my first visit than I went back as a junior crew member. But I really loved what I did. I was the head of logistics on 3 different submarines. I was stationed overseas for a couple of years at Submarine Squadron 22 in La Maddalena, Italy. And I wound up spending the better part of a year with the Army as a first sergeant in Kuwait and Iraq. And while it was a good experience for me, it really did a lot to verify my original career choice.
I love it. I love it. Actually, in the news today, I was just watching the news earlier. I saw that there was this underwater vessel that was going to check out the Titanic, and these guys are stuck and running out of oxygen. Did you see that story today?
I did, and I really feel for them. You know, it's interesting, and people think that you would pull against your adversaries, but like when the Kursk went down, and then the Chileans lost a submarine about a year and a half ago, I really get choked up because even though they're working for a different country, you really understand the perils of what they're going through. And it really can be a pretty dangerous business.
Yeah.
It's definitely not all guts and glory and the things that we see on television. There's very, very real unhappy things that happen out there. So Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel for them and I feel for their families. And
absolutely.
dying by asphyxiation is a pretty horrible way to go.
Oh God, I can't even imagine. So hopes and prayers that somehow they survive this and they're able to locate that vessel and bring it back up.
Absolutely. And I hope they
Yes.
have a great story when they get back.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I don't even understand how we lost sight of the vessel. I mean, to me, it's like I don't even understand how this could happen. But I mean, yeah, just like you said, there are perils every time that you go underneath the water for that length of time.
Well,
Um,
once you go deeper than 150 feet, there is no light other than what you create.
yeah, no, 100%. And I
So
don't think they've ever rescued anybody at the depth that these particular men are under. I don't think that's ever happened before.
um, I probably not.
Oh, God Almighty,
But
unbelievable.
God works in strange ways sometimes, and as long as they're still alive, there's hope.
Yeah, amen. So we'll just hope and pray that they come back. I want to talk about this, the social skills. I think this is really fascinating. When did you first realize that you might have been missing some of the social skills that other people around you seem to have already?
Well, looking back, it should have been apparent to me much earlier than it was. But really, when I was in the service and I made chief petty officer, so I became a frontline supervisor, and I wound up going to department head meetings and that sort of thing. And I realized that there was a lot going on that I didn't understand, which is where my thing about my social awkwardness and my lack of social grace came from. So, someone who spent a lot of time in school and around schools, of course, at some time you've showed up for class 5 minutes late, and the lesson has already started, and you know that there's something that you missed that's important, but you get the general gist of what's going on in the class. That's how I felt in every meeting I ever went to.
Hmm.
I knew that there was something that I was missing. I just could not put my finger on it as to what it was. Now, sometimes my social awkwardness, other people used for their own purposes, because I was that guy who would say the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong thing at the perfect time. And sometimes people would leverage that to make a statement to somebody else. I had a commanding officer one day tell me that, Senior G, I never had to worry about you telling me the truth. The only thing I had to worry about was who was going to be around when you told me. No, right? But those things, they go on in our lives over and over and over and over. And I actually was invited by a company I was working in San Diego to take an emotional intelligence survey. And I'm pretty certain when I hit the submit button that alarm bells went off in somebody's office saying, hey, this dude has a problem. Uh, and when I got the results back, I really was faced with two choices, right? I could be bitter, or I could go on a mission to do better. And at that point, I was almost 50. I'd had plenty of bitter in my life already. So I went on a journey of self-discovery and improvement. And now that I discovered this, it turns out, especially during COVID lockdowns, people stopped dealing with people,
Mhm.
and they got comfortable not dealing with people. But we're social animals. We actually need social interaction to function and thrive. So I'm on a mission to help everybody I can win with people,
Mhm.
because it matters and it's very personal to me.
Yeah. I love the mission. I think it's incredible. And you talked a little bit about the downside with your commanding officer not really knowing who was going to be around when you told him the truth. And I understand that as a commanding officer, that's very important. Now, but does social awkwardness actually serve any purpose? Are there any upsides to social awkwardness?
You know, I discovered that, and I'm glad you asked this question, because it's the second time I've encountered it. And the first time I went and did some research and discovered that there are some upsides to it, but they're not inherently obvious.
Mhm.
Things like I would notice things that other people didn't, because a lot of people, you're a public speaker, most people see the stage and the person who's at the center of the stage.
Mhm.
I would actually notice things that were going on behind the scenes that other people did not. although I missed some of the interaction that someone was trying to give to me, there were other things that I would see that would give a different perspective that would help the group. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. I look at it as, a diverse organization, a diverse fraternity, for example, that has lots of different members from lots of different places, not all from the same high school, the same hometown. If there's different races, religions, ethnicities, sexual orientation, age, country of origin, that is going to allow us to look at a problem from a lot of different lenses. And ultimately, I think we'll be able to solve that problem faster if we're constructed that way. So I do think having somebody with some social awkwardness in a group setting can be really beneficial to the group.
Absolutely. And the thing that people think that they want to be in a group of people that are like them because it's familiar and it's easy.
Absolutely. We're wired that way.
But high functioning teams are not built that way.
Correct. So we have to fight our natural instincts.
Yeah. High functioning teams are a bunch of people who are often opposites, who have learned to understand each other and communicate and leverage the skills that the other person has while trying to avoid the kryptonite that goes with everybody's superpower.
Right. I 100% agree with that. I mean, there are some things that I can't see, and I know that as CEO of the company, I know there are things that I can't see. I just have blind spots, and I depend on my diverse team to point out those things before I step on a landmine. Okay, so it's very important to me. I get it. I just, I think we need to educate the general public that is valuable.
Absolutely.
So that's really interesting. And, you mentioned that you're a body language trainer. I don't know what that is. Can you explain to us what a body language trainer does?
Really, what I do is I help people win with people.
Okay.
I help people, especially people like myself, understand the invisible but very real rules about how we interact and learn to leverage those for good. The art of having a great conversation, the art of understanding when I've said something that someone doesn't like or is offended by, or if I need to explain more. In my past, I would just go on and on and on because I would enter a conversation looking to score points and be right rather than to seek understanding, which is very, very different and leads to very, very different outcomes.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. I think when I enter a room, let's say in a networking situation, I can scan the room, and based on body language and certain cues, I can kind of tell certain things. For example, if there are three people that are standing in a circle and it's a closed circle in a networking situation, that's probably my cue that it's not the right time to approach that group. Whereas if there are two people and they're standing shoulder to shoulder, that is kind of a situation where I can enter comfortably, that they're open to having an outsider come in and join that conversation. Maybe if somebody is standing with their arms crossed, that might be a signal that maybe they don't approve or don't agree with the conversation, perhaps that they're closed off to that line of thinking. Are there other examples of body language cues that maybe we don't really know about yet?
Well, it's interesting because you are actually talking about fronting, which is very powerful.
Yes.
So we do it not only to show interest, but if you're paying attention, it will actually tell you who the person in control or the most powerful person in the group is.
Right.
But here's something to watch for. Okay, so when you're in one of these groups, two things are going to happen. Either the conversation is going to come to an end, or someone else is going to see something or someplace else they want to be. And if you notice them move their feet, it will actually point towards the direction that they're going to go next.
That's interesting.
But it's a great cue to either tell you where their interest is and where they're headed, or that the conversation really needs to wind itself down.
Yeah. That's really, really important. I like that. That's something to think about and something I'm going to pay attention to the next time I'm in a networking situation. I think there are people who are listening right now that might not really understand the difference between somebody who is an introvert and somebody who just has social awkwardness, and maybe even autism, right? So, like these three terms, what's the difference between them?
Okay. Now, people think that most of us are either introverts or extroverts,
Right.
and it comes from where we get our energy. Introverts, while they may be social, they recharge and get their energy and recharge by spending time alone. An extrovert wants to go be the life of the party, and they get their energy after their day, whatever they had to do, by being with people.
Mhm.
I'm actually an ambivert. I'm really smack dab in the middle of that. I enjoy time with people. I enjoy public speaking. There's never been a microphone that I was afraid of or didn't want to take. But I need time alone. And I'm a person of faith. I spend time with God every morning. And it's part of how I start my day and part of how I energize myself for the day. And my wife and I actually generally sit and read for a few minutes every night at the end of our day to go to bed and relax. So we can spend some time alone because my wife is very much an introvert and she needs time to recharge and relax before she can sleep. So, uh, people who are socially awkward, it's interesting because it does have good things about it, but it really is about how we feel when we're dealing with people. Now, part of that awkwardness may actually be a great thing because when we're a little bit uncomfortable, we tend to pay attention to what we say and what we do. Now, people like myself who are oblivious would just plow on through anyway, but sometimes it was good for a group because everybody knew who that person was going to be and they didn't have to worry about it being them. But people with autism, they don't naturally read body language, social cues, and facial expressions. I am not someone who is autistic, but I do have people in my family who are. Though I do have that cue, I am not someone who naturally read body language, social cues, and facial expressions, which is kind of how I got where I was, which may have been one of the things that made me a great submarine sailor. I was already a misfit, and I found a close society where I fit in. And most people were either very type A or a little left of center to begin with.
Right.
So I found my people.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely found your people. I like that explanation. I think that's a really, really good explanation. And, a lot of people think that because I am a public speaker, I must be an extrovert. It's actually not true at all. I'm actually probably more aligned as an introvert. As soon as I get on the airplane to go to that speaking assignment, I have the headphones on and I'm not talking to anybody next to me on the plane. But as soon as that stage is ready and the lights are bright, I can't wait to get up there because I have an important message to share with the audience, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm an extrovert.
No, it doesn't. And I actually spent time. Part of the reason that we did this as late as we did after our first conversation is I actually went to New Orleans to a Speakers Playhouse live event.
Mhm.
And I discovered that a lot of people who are public speakers are actually introverts
Yeah.
and they thrive. And here's why: they have a message, but they get exhausted having one to one conversations. So getting on stage is a great place for them to actually sell or give their message one to many. And the people who want to connect with them will go and find them afterwards,
Yes.
but they don't have to go see each of them individually. So
Mhm.
it's really very much a way of conserving energy and getting their message to a large audience without having to have a bunch of individual conversations.
I think you're
So
absolutely
you're
right.
absolutely onto something there.
Yeah, well, you have a very good explanation because I think you're absolutely right about that. It is exhausting for me to have that many one-on-one conversations, even though I do have a very important message to share. And maybe it's just energy conservation. It's just easier for me to do that one to many, and many we're talking about 4,000 or 5,000 people at a time to conserve energy. For me, that's very efficient, right? As opposed to spending that much energy one-on-one. I'm exhausted thinking about it.
There you have it. And my friend Ginny Trask, who's the co-founder of Speakers Playhouse, actually said that this is very much her.
Yeah.
She loves to speak to sell, but she is exhausted having one-to-one conversations over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
She wants to find out who her people are, because they will go and find her
right
after she gives a message, which is very well delivered and she's very attached to and believes in.
Yeah.
Just like you.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same situation. You know, if somebody out there who's listening, if they're struggling right now to go out to social events because they do feel awkward, do you have some tips for them in order to overcome that social awkwardness?
Well, one of my military sayings that people don't get right away is sometimes you have to embrace the suck. Sometimes to get the thing that you want, there isn't a way to get from A to B without the journey.
Right.
But here's the thing. People want you to succeed, just like people want you as a speaker to succeed when you get on stage. No one wants to show up and feel badly for the person there. But here's a helpful thing. Focus on purpose, not on perfection. There's no such thing as a perfect interaction with other people. We're all flawed. We all see things differently, and things invariably are going to get a little bit messy. The key, though, is in order for people to see you and want to hear you, in order to be interesting, the first thing you have to do is be interested. You also have to get through people's basic line of defense, right? We love social scripting because it's easy and we don't have to think. In reality, though, no one really wants to talk about the weather or traffic.
Right.
Ask people something that's a little bit out of the box. Yeah. You asked me before we started this conversation, Craig, how are you? And I said, if I were any better, I would be in trouble, which probably is never far from the truth in my case. But I gave you a non-scripted, different answer, and your brain woke right up and came out of default mode.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Do the same thing in a conversation. Don't ask someone about traffic. Ask someone if they're working on something that lights them up.
Yeah.
Or if they learned something recently that they want to share with everybody, or they think everybody should know.
Yeah.
Wake them up, get them involved in the conversation, and then play like Foursquare, right? Pass the ball back and forth, include everyone in the conversation who wants in, and let everybody feel valued and wanted in the conversation.
Yeah.
And then watch for people who want to run away when they turn their feet from you. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great tip. You know, another one that I typically use, I ask people for advice. And that wakes them up right away, you know, and they come away from that conversation saying, I really like that guy.
Yeah. Here's another great tip. We're taught as part of social scripting to shake people's hands when we meet them.
Yeah.
If there's someone that you actually want to connect with and talk to again, make sure you shake hands at the parting, because it actually leaves a chemical marker. It makes you memorable.
Wow. That's just incredible. I like that as well. All really good tips. I mean, do you have any, pointers for having great conversations with people that you meet for the first time? Is there anything else that you can think of that just, will kind of set you apart maybe?
Smile.
Yeah.
Smile at the beginning. Wave, say hi. Show people your hands. It's a silly thing.
Yeah.
But if you've ever seen the picture of how your brain sees your own body,
mm-hmm.
Your hands are gigantic. So are your face and lips. So if that's what our body pays attention to about our own body, it's also what we pay attention to in the caveman part of our own brain.
Yeah.
Showing your hands and smiling and make people feel at ease makes people trust you more quickly and puts them at ease. Keep your hands out of your pockets and out from behind your back, because people will wonder, is he hiding something? Is there something I need to know about? And it makes us reflexively uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's genius.
Make yourself open to conversation and make people feel welcome.
Yeah. That's absolutely genius. Usually I do that instinctively, right? Before I start a speaking engagement, it's just, hello, something like that, showing my hands from the very beginning.
Hi, I'm Craig.
Right. I'm trying to build trust and I'm trying to build rapport as quickly as I can in that first 10 seconds, right?
And now you know why.
And now I know why. I just did it instinctively, but I think there is something to that about trust, that you're going to believe that I have nothing to hide. I mean, I'm showing you my hands. There's nothing here. It's just
There's a
me.
reason the police want to see your hands, and
That's
there's a reason why every cheesy alien movie, we are friend, right? So
right. That's genius. It's just amazing stuff to me. When should people seek help for their social awkwardness? Is there a point that they reach that you're like, you really need to speak to a coach about this or something like that? What's that point?
if you want to learn to thrive with people, I'd love to help you. I'm not the only one out there that does. Look to the science of people. They do this training too.
Mhm.
But really, if you're someone who is really debilitated by the thought of being with people,
Mhm.
find someone to talk to about it,
Yeah.
because that's not how we're wired. And there are people in life that are hermits and happy being that way, but most of us are not. We are social beings. We crave time with people, especially people that we have an affinity for, that we have interests in common, or people within our family that we care about. You know, if that person is you, go find yourself a counselor who deals with social anxiety. I think social anxiety is actually what you're talking about, not social awkwardness.
Mhm.
All of us feel a little awkward when we walk into a new situation. The
Mhm.
difference for you and I when we go into someplace is that we choose to get excited about it rather than shrink from it, because our body doesn't know the difference between the two.
Yeah.
They don't know the difference between stress and excitement. So if you tell yourself you're excited, that is what you will feel, and how you come across is very, very different.
Very good.
But social anxiety is something that people actually need to pay attention to.
Yeah. Very good. I appreciate that advice. And, we do love good food here on the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I usually speak in the Dallas Fort Worth area at least once a year. Last year it was at SMU and I had a blast over there. So, what is a great restaurant that I need to try the next time I'm in town?
There are two.
Okay.
If you want great Tex-Mex,
Sure.
because I lived in California for a long time, there's a difference between Mexican and Tex-Mex.
Right.
There's a place in Burleson called Fresco's
Okay.
that is amazing. If you're looking for the quintessential Texas experience, go to the Stockyards and go to H3 and have a steak. It is phenomenal. Now, the last time I went there, I actually had the ribs and cowboy beans.
Uh-huh.
And I think if I'd have stopped before it was gone, my tongue would have slapped my face for being a jerk.
That's how you know the ribs were good.
Yes.
That's great. That is really, really good. I'm more of a steak guy. My wife, she likes the ribs. So something for everybody, it sounds like.
Something for everybody, but very quintessential. What people think of Texas food, and it's right near the Stockyards and near the arena.
That's fantastic. I'll definitely give that a try, and I'll let you know next time what I think, if I slap myself with my tongue or what happens.
Well, look me up the next time you come, and maybe I'll get to dinner with you.
All right,
We
that
can and
sounds
we
like
can
a
have it.
plan.
We can continue this conversation another time.
I love it. I love it. All right. So, if one of our listeners wants to work with you as a coach, or perhaps they want to bring you in to speak on their college campus about this social awkwardness, the social anxiety, all of these pieces, where should they go to connect with you?
The easiest place to connect with me is Craig at escapingsocialawkwardness.com, which was my email. Escapingsocialawkwardness.com is actually my website, which is very much under construction at the moment, because I realized I had a lot of language in it that didn't appeal to people, and I want to reach a greater audience. So I am very much updating that right now, and I'll have an offer on there. But I'd love to come and speak. I'd love to do lunch and learns if you have a company or you have a small organization. I'm actually getting together on Thursday and giving a presentation with a professional organization here locally, and they want me to share some of my submarine pictures and stuff with them. So which is always kind of fun for me. People are like, I cannot believe that you did that. But like I said, it's all a matter of our experience and what we think is normal, right?
It
Normal
is.
is different to every different person, which is what
Yeah.
makes us unique and different.
Yeah, well, hopefully we have a good update on the divers who are going to check out the Titanic. That certainly could be a topic of conversation next week. As you're talking about your submarine adventures. But we'll hope and pray that they come back. And I appreciate everything that you shared here. I think this is really helpful for people that have that either social awkwardness or social anxiety, and they're just looking for solutions. And there's just so much to learn, especially I think in the corporate world, especially as a new student who is looking to start a new job and get off on the right foot with all these new people that they're going to be meeting. I think body language is just really so critical. Understanding that will help you tremendously in your career. So,
Yep, emotional intelligence and great conversational skills
yeah.
are one of the top things that employers are actually dying to find right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who have them are very well compensated because they realize if they don't find them, their competition is.
Yeah, something to think about, I think, as the students who are listening right now start building their careers. Very, very important stuff. So thank you so much, Craig, for sharing all of that. I really appreciate you being here. Again, thank you so much for your service to our country, and look forward to continuing the conversation in Dallas.
Well, I thank you very much for your time, your attention, and access to an audience that I otherwise would not be able to find. So I appreciate you and your listeners immensely.
Yes.
And I wish all of you an amazing remainder of your day.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Craig, make sure that you like it. Make sure that you share it on social media with other students that might be experiencing some of the social awkwardness and anxiety that we talked about in the social situations, because there is help available out there. Lots of people out there like Craig that want to help you get through this. And I think if you want to start your career with a bang, this is, great stuff to be learning about. So make sure that you like it on social media. And we hope to see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.